Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday Preppers, where we take a look at the in-game news for FFBE coming out this week, and take a look at the trials and content that are coming. That way we can know what kinds of things to get ready for, and in particular really focus on like what kind of materia, like for killers and weapons we can put on. They're going to help us take on those trials and get them done relatively quickly, easily and safely. So that said, we're going to dive right into it, and this week we have yet another week of Final Fantasy VII stuff going on. So that's fun if you like Final Fantasy VII. You know, a lot of people do. You know, some would say that it is very popular content. So we could go ahead and take a look and see, you know, what we have going on in Final Fantasy VII. First and foremost, it's Crisis Core. It's not just Final Fantasy VII, but it's Crisis Core, and the unit on banner is Genesis. Genesis has a step up. Genesis is an SLB mage, locked to fire in his SLB, and his special ability, which is called Ancient Epic Purgatory. But he does have some spells and things like that too. So not strictly locked to fire, but his main damage is fire locked. He's got an STMR sword, which is pretty much good for him only. He's got a TMR with killers on it, which I'm a big fan of. It's got magic 50% and machine killer 50% as well. Could be bigger, but it is a TMR, not an STMR. So, you know, there you go, 50%. He's also got a vision card that is mainly good for Final Fantasy VII mages. That basically boils down to him, the new unit that we're getting this week in the unit upgrade event, and then also the shift form for Cetra Descendant Aerith, who is technically a mage. You know, there you go. 3 options for you. Not too bad, not too bad. But let's go ahead and stop focusing on Genesis, because, like, you know, people who are excited about Genesis already know about Genesis, and you're probably either going to pull from him or not. But he's a fire locked mage. He's a pure mage, not a physical type mage, so that's potentially useful for folks who do struggle with DV, the magic only stages. You know, pull based on your needs and your preference and your you know, your love for this unit. There you go. But let's talk about the events. So the first one that we're going to have is this one here, the Hunted S Cells. It's a raid event against this human enemy Hollander. Hollander has no weaknesses or resistances, and you can only break his attack and magic, which is pretty typical for raids, but you can give him disease. Don't know what disease we want to give him, but we can give him disease. And that'll lower his defense and spirit if you're having trouble damaging the boss, but you shouldn't because it's a raid. And you can summon through the box, and get all these stuff like these gloves that we realized on stream. If you played the old Final Fantasy VII events, you already have these gloves. You already have them purple pain +1 gloves at 120 attack. So rerun item, we've already got these gloves. Now we can have double purple pains if you really feel like it, and have some fun beating up on Hollander. Sorry, dude, it's coming, but we're gonna need some human killer for this event. There's another event though with Hollander, and that is this one, the youngest Turk ever, or the youngest Turk in history. I don't know why I wrote ever, but you know, whatever. And it's the unit strengthening event for Cisnei. So Cisnei is also a mage from Final Fantasy VII, so would benefit from the vision card from Genesis. If you felt the need to put that on there. But Cisnei is a super limit burst mage, and uses throwing weapons, has a 2-handed throwing weapon that you can equip as an STMR, also has clothes that are mainly good for her. Sorry about that. Mainly good for her, giving 500 magic here, 500 magic here, and then 500 magic on an EX ability. Has 2 Grandis abilities as well. This one in particular has a break, reduces resistance to several elements. And this one just does damage. So, you know, maybe that'll be useful for some of the content we have this week. We do tend to enjoy free units, especially ones that we can upgrade for free. At least I do anyways. The SLB reduces spirit and then does fire magic damage, so kind of cool. You know, maybe not the best unit ever, but we are fighting against Hollander again, has no weakness and resistances again. This instance of Hollander, you cannot disease, but you can break his defense and spirit. So go ahead and just have fun farming up the fragments and stuff for this unit, and then have a level 130 unit for free. Kind of cool. Then we have some other stuff going on. So this is all on one panel here. It's the March of Degradation, the battle between first-class soldiers and fists trained to protect. So I'm calling this one March of Degradation. I'm calling it Walk of Shame, just because that sounds like more fun. But this is a equipment strengthening event that you're going to use to farm up Genesis' coat. You're going to be fighting against Genesis to get this, and Genesis has no weaknesses. Does have 50% resistance to ice and water and 100% resistance to dark, so plan your team accordingly. You know, this one says you can get event exclusive equipment, recipes, and more. Doesn't say anything about being locked to Final Fantasy 7, so that's kind of nice. But the Final Fantasy 7 units do get a 200% stat bonus, so that is cool if you feel like going after the Walk of Shame to get Genesis coat. But that's not the only thing we have going on. We also have a battle between the first class soldiers. This is against Sephiroth. This is also an equipment upgrade event where you can upgrade Sephiroth's katana. It's against Sephiroth, and he is resistant to ice, wind, earth, and dark at 100%. He has no weaknesses, so you can use any of the other elements unless you have a really big break, but you probably want to bring the elements that are getting the best bang for their buck. You can use all the breaks you want, and again, does not say is locked to Final Fantasy 7 units, so I don't think this will be that hard. Even if they get a bonus, you know, it doesn't say they're locked to Final Fantasy 7 only. You can again obtain event equipment and recipes, so cool. Very nice. This gets upgraded to a 190 attack two-handed katana. And with Sephiroth wearing it, he gets 1,000 attack and LB damage at 50%, which is potentially useful for him depending on what other kind of gear you have laying around. If you don't have the Dark Visions katana, this is going to be awesome for him. Yeah, cool. And then the final one, Fists Trained to Protect. This is Silver Crowns for Tifa, and this one does say exclusive to Final Fantasy 7 units. So we have to bring Final Fantasy 7 units to this one. The good news is we've got a handful available to us, but depending on how tough this is, they might not be much use depending on what we need. This is against a Reaper enemy, so the only enemy this week that is not a human is this one. It's against Eligor. It is resistant to wind and earth and dark, and weak to fire and ice at 20%. So those are kind of where you want to start. Fire and ice damage. You can bring all the breaks you want. And doing this is going to get you Tifa's crowns. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Tifa's crowns in just a second, but I also want to point out that doing this gets you her elemental burst, which is her very big water amplify, and also dual blade mastery fury, which boosts the chain damage limit for various chains by 200%, regardless of the current damage limit when armed with two one-handed weapons. This gives her the 8x chain cap, basically. So the same thing that Dwayne and Rain have, she's going to have as well. And that's going to be very big for her as a damage dealer. So let's talk about her crowns really quickly here. If we go to ability upgrades, both of them do the same thing. They boost attack by 1,000. They boost damage against beasts and reapers and machines. 200 for the first two, 100 by the second two, and it changes her LB effects. So that is good. And then the final one does give machines at 200 as well. And it's the same for both of these. Now this one is for her shifted limit burst, which tends to be her more powerful one because you can stack it up. So I would say that since we're facing off against a Reaper enemy and this boosts damage against Reapers, I would definitely awaken her abilities if you have her as you go, so that on the final stage of the fight you've got this one already upgraded fully. That's just going to help you do damage. So if you've got Tifa and plan on using her, pick up your crowns from the mailbox before you upgrade them, and get this upgraded so that you can use it on the final fight against Eligor. That's what I'm planning on doing. But she's also getting a leader skill. She's also getting a bunch of other stuff along the way to help her be a more relevant unit for the current meta. Even though we don't have a ton of water support, like in terms of leaders and things like that, she'll be able to, do a little bit more damage than she used to. So that's going to be cool. And yeah, we're also getting some new leader skills. Well, actually old leader skills, but they're new to us. Terra, Rabanastra Vaughn, and Planet Destroyer Kuja are all getting their basic leader skill. So that's kind of cool. And that's really it. So we have a lot of human events or human content and a one Reaper content. So let's talk about Reaper first. For Reaper, you could do the Undead Killer Plus from Doulahan and the recipe for Undead Killer from Doulahan as well. You can get Reaper Eater Sense from Stroper, which is a total joke trial at this point. Pretty much any new units can just go in and just kill Stroper on the first turn. A little more complicated is conquering the Fear of Spirits from Scorn of Ancient Hellbringer, and that's the one we're going to do tonight because it is a little more complicated than just blowing it up on turn 1. I'm going to show you how to do it in 3 turns very, very safely. You could also do the Ancient Sword from Scorn of Tiamat. That is a one-handed weapon, and with the true dual wield system coming back into play, one-handed weapons you might see a little bit more use. Not a ton depending on what's available, but you know they are there. You could also do the Stardust Rod from Scorn of the Octopus and the Teacher, and then a handful of TMRs and STMRs as well. These are not as good, but the 75% materials that you can pick up and craft are fairly good. Even though Conquering the Fear of Spirits is only physical type, in terms of physical mages, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So we'll show you how to get that one tonight, using a bunch of free units basically and some old units. And then humans, we talk human every week. It feels like there's a bunch there. The best ones, of course, are the Man-Eater Senses and the Mask of Ashura, and then Guy's Belt, obviously. But I also want to throw out there the Elnath trial in Chamber of Arms has Man-Eater Plus, or Man-Killer Plus, and that one is really, really old. And a lot of people maybe have not played through the Chamber of Arms if they are free players or new players rather. So if you've never gone in and done Chamber of the Arms, the Man-Eater Plus or Man-Killer Plus or whatever one it is that you get from the Elnath trial is one of the best rewards in the chamber. So definitely go in and get that. You can get that done very, very easily at this point. You do have to kill Elnath with magic, so pay attention to what actions you're using as you kill it. But any current unit should be able to wipe out Elnath in a couple turns without taking any damage. I must be tired or something. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at some Reaper Killer that we're going to go ahead and grab, and they're going to get that in the Vortex and go to Nemesis and Chamber of the Fallen. The one we're going to be going after is Scorn of the Ancient Hellbringer. You can get Conquering the Fear of Spirits and Materia, and that's the advanced version right here. To get this, you just have to beat the boss. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to worry about the turn limit or the Esper thing or the Party of 5. We are going to do all of those in one run, but all you really have to do is fight this boss. It's against Omega and the Searcher. The news here tells us a little bit about it. The Searcher is going to protect Omega against physical attacks. Every few turns, Omega is going to perform an attack that forces the party out of the battle, but they'll return after one turn. So you kind of want to beat it before that happens, ideally. We're going to do this in 3 turns very safely. If you're using physical attacks, you kind of have to take out the Omega first, or the Searcher first, wait a turn, and then to kill Omega on turn 3. We got this under control though. So we're going to go ahead and click next, depart without a companion, and we're going to take this team right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the gear and stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. So Seymour is an NVA. You can get Seymour very easily to EX3. And all we did is gear him for elemental resistance kind of across the board. But the 2 most important are fire and ice. That's going to happen on the first 2 turns. Other than that, just hit him up with some spirit and some HP. Happens to be wearing some Esper Fill and some immunity just in case. But otherwise, there he is. Just lots of resistances. He is wearing Sylvie's Vision card. It's got high spirit on it and resistances that anybody can benefit from. And you can get Sylvie's Vision card for free from premium Vision card select tickets if you don't happen to have a Sylvie. If you do happen to have a Sylvie, you've got her card because she's awesome and you definitely want her card. So pick that up. It's pretty good. But otherwise, here's Seymour. Not a lot of spirit. Not a bunch of HP, but he's going to cover the preemptive attack that we're going to get hit by very easily. Ferris is our provoker. She's an evasion provoker, just in case. Very easy to build that. And then she's just got some Esper fill and evasion. Like I said, she's wearing her own vision card, but it doesn't really matter. All she's here to do is summon Ramuh, and then also just like provoke the attacks. She is wearing a source of stop immunity in the Grand Reverie, so that she doesn't get stopped on the first turn. If she does get stopped, it really doesn't matter. She's going to summon Ramuh on the first turn, and then she's done for the rest of the fight. All Bed Girl Riku is just here to do Lightning Amplify, Machine Killer, and then just like some HP barriers. She's going to use her LB on turn 2 as well. So if you don't have an EX2 Riku and you just have an EX1 or an EX0, equip her with some way to fill her LB. LB fill and the fill rate are going to help you out there. That's really all she needs is just, LB and her base abilities. Although the way we're geared, we don't really take that much damage. You could honestly bulk her up and she would take less damage and be fine. Nobody has, in all the runs I did tonight on stream, nobody died. I'll just say that. Now, this is not that dangerous. So there you go. Kelger is going to be our main DPS. He's wearing Tyvis's TMR. If you don't have Tyvis, it's okay. Just put on a two-handed weapon that's decent for him. This one happens to give Machine Killer, so I liked it. And then just some Machine Killer gear in his own TMR and STMR. Beyond that, Machine Killer, LB damage, Indestructible Light. Everybody can get Indestructible Light for free from the panel quests. Master of Fate's probably the most contentious thing on here, just because it does come from a Neovisions unit. But Cloud's one of the oldest Neovisions units, so everybody should have at least one copy of this lying around at this point. There you go. And then he's wearing the Dark Lineage Vision card. I actually really like the Dark Lineage Vision card. The stats on it are kind of low, but it also gives just like good, bonus stats, LB damage, and then flat stats for everybody. So it's pretty decent, for a free Vision card. I really like it. I'm going to be using it on budget runs going forward for our main DPS. So there you go. And then Reno is here. Reno's wearing a two-handed weapon just so that he can hit the boss and help Kelger with chaining. He's got his own TMR. Other than that, important to note that he's got his abilities crowned. So if you go into his special abilities, he's got his crowns that I used on Pyramid's Peak, which I think that's going to come in handy this week for all the Final Fantasy VII content to have your Reno crown. So I hope that you did crown your Reno, because he's going to be like the best breaker for Final Fantasy VII. And it's useful here as well. Also worth noting that our Ferris, I have her abilities crowned as well. So she's got her Evocation Unleashed ability awakened, so that she's got the better Ramuh field. But there you go. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this and put the actions up on screen so you can see what we're doing. And we'll knock this trial out very quickly and have some fun with it. All right, Seymour's going to jump out in front and protect us from the atomic ray. It's fire magic, so he covers us just fine, and we're good to go. The first thing we're going to do is Seymour's going to use cover, which is going to just keep his cover going and then buff all of our stats. There we go. Ferris is going to summon Ramuh, and that's going to put up the nice field for us. So there's Ramuh. We got boosted lightning damage here. Very nice. Speaking of lightning damage, Riku is going to cast Thundera. And then she's going to do Eccentric for a Machine Killer buff. And then I'm going to use Lightning Rod to reduce lightning resistance for this enemy right here. There we go. And then all we have to do now is fight it. So Kelger is going to Mirage. That's going to let us dodge some attacks that are going to come our way. And then 2 Lupine Fangs. Reno is going to do the same thing. He's going to use Pyramid's Peak to break and Lightning Imperil, and then just use 2 Absolute Mirror of Equity chains to chain with Kelger on this little Searcher. And because we're both wearing two-handed weapons, we should hit the Searcher no problem and take it out. There you go. Searcher gone, so it's not protecting the Omega anymore. He does still have physical resistance, though, for a couple of turns. So we have to just, manage that a little bit. There you go. Some more magic attacks happened. Seymour took a little bit of damage. Totally fine. From here, Seymour can just guard, and so can Ferris. Riku's going to use her LB. Put up an HP barrier and mitigations and stuff. Kelger is going to Lupine Howl for an LB damage buff. Mirage the party just to evade some attacks. And he can do whatever for his third action. Lupine Fang is fine. Reno's going to guard as well. Wave Cannon is hybrid. We do take a little bit of damage there. We did dodge part of it. So that's good. And then Seymour covered the rest. Really, all we have to do is just take out the boss now. Doesn't have mitigation anymore, and he's, broken and has Imperil. You can't break its defense and spirit, unfortunately. So Kelger is just going to go ahead and hit it really hard. Yeah. SLB. Hits the damage cap on the last turn, or last hit of the chain. And he does, 18-5, not bad. But he takes out this trial. So that alone will go ahead and get you, the Conquering the Fear of Spirits, which is a 75% physical killer, which is very useful. Go ahead and see our breakdown here. Kelger obviously carrying the damage. Reno, whatever. The big thing Reno did there was a really big lightning imperil. And there you have it. So go ahead and get you some human killer, get you some Reaper killer, and get yourself ready to take on the Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core content this week. We'll be doing that live over on Twitch at 9 p.m. Central Time. If that is your jam and you want to watch that over there, be happy to have you. And we'll have some fun with the both the equipment upgrades, the unit upgrades, which I'll probably do the unit upgrade quest during the day, just so that you guys aren't sitting around for me like farming this event. And that way we can focus on the trials. In particular, the Tifa crowns, I think, will be the one that we spend the most time working on. I think that'll be the hardest, since we have to take Final Fantasy VII units. The others, take Chizuru and have a nice day. But yeah, I hope that's helpful for you. And if it is, that you'd give the video, a like and subscribe if you haven't before. And we'll see you around in the next stuff, which should be on Thursday over on Twitch. And then I usually do a couple of recap videos here as well after I'm done. But yeah, you guys be good to each other. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.